So in this meetup, we looked at Sonnet 42, and we're looking at the 5 steps for saying a sonnet. So the first step is looking at the rhyming couplets, then it is speaking the last words of each line, then it is breaking the sonnet into 4 sections, then marking the breaths, then marking the Césures, and then trying to work out what the hell it's all about. Okay, so Sonnet 42 begins with, "That thou hast is not all my grief." Okay, so the rhyming couplet. "But here's the joy, my friend and I are one. Sweet flattery, then she loves but me alone." Usually when I do these sonnet analyses, I've not read the sonnet before and I don't really know what I'm talking about. Obviously this one we looked at yesterday. "But here's my joy, my friend and I are one. Sweet flattery, then she loves but me alone." So it's obviously to do with love. She loves me, but this friend she loves is also me, or that we are one in some way. And so even though she loves this friend, it's like she loves me as well. It's something like this. The last words of each line. We say them just to see what is leaping out. What are the key words? What stands out? Okay, grief, dearly, chief, nearly. Grief stands out. I mean, grief, sadness, it's going to stand out more than the word nearly. I mean, what can you gain from the word nearly? So, ye, her, me, her. So we've got 2 hers. Ye, and ye could almost be counted as her. So it's to do with you, it's to do with me. Again, we're feeling it's going to be love sonnet action here. Gain, loss, twain, cross. So gain, loss, we've got antitheses. So in love, you lose people, you win people. We've got the word twain, an old-fashioned word meaning 2. So the 2 of us are going to be split apart or kept together, something like this. And then in the rhyming couplet, one alone. One alone, so maybe we are one, or I am left as one and now I'm alone, with the breaking into 4. So a sonnet is 14 lines, and that's 3 groups of 4 plus the rhyming couplet. So we've marked it like this. We've done it already. You see, just put a line under, a line under, a line under. Okay, now let's look at the breaths. Now the breaths you have to breathe are the sentence endings. Sentence ends in 3 ways: full stop, exclamation mark, question mark. So we're going to look out for them. But before we do those, we know we're going to breathe right at the start and right at the end. So I do a little forward slash, forward slash. So those ones we can stick in straight away. Then we look for the sentence endings. Okay, the first sentence ends at the end of the first quatrain, the first group of 4 lines. So on nearly. Okay, we've got the full stop. We've got another full stop at the end of the second 4 lines on her, marking the breath. At the end of the third 4 lines, we've got a colon. So we won't mark it straight away, but we will be thinking about this. A quick check to see if there's any other sentence endings within the lines, but no. So now we've got to look at back to the first quatrain. And what's the other big punctuation? What's the next big punctuation in that quatrain? Well, at the end of the line 2, we've got dearly followed by a semicolon. Now, an even sonnet would probably breathe at the end of every other line. We've got a big punctuation at the end of line 2. So let's just mark it in as a breath. Let's just assume, technically, that that is going to be a breath. And now let's look at the second quatrain. Now with this one, it's a bit strange because in the second quatrain we've got a colon at the end of line 1 and a semicolon at the end of line 2. So we weren't sure where to breathe, but we, having gone through it, myself and Alex, looking at this, we decided that we would like to do it on the colon. And the colon is usually a larger measure of punctuation than the semicolon. The clue is in the title. Okay, in quatrain 3, line 2 of Q3, we've got a semicolon again. So we can safely assume that's going to be the breath. So without reading it, we've got the breaths marked. Next step is the Césures. What's the Césure? To be or not to be? That is the question. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? It's the natural break within a line. It's not a pause. It's not a breath. But I would go out tonight, but I haven't got a stitch to wear. The caesure is the mark, if you like, between two phrases. What are you doing? I thought we were going out, you know. The reason for marking it is so we flow through those phrases. We don't start breaking up and putting little beats and pauses where they shouldn't be. Often there's a comma where the caesure is. Like on the first line, that thou hast her is not all my grief. It is not all my grief. That thou hast her, it is not all my grief. And yet it may be said, I loved her dearly. So, I mean, I'm exaggerating the pause there, but you can see that the next caesure is after said. That she hath thee, we've got a comma, is of my wailing chief. A loss in love that touches me more nearly. A loss in love that touches me more nearly. Well, more nearly is not much of a phrase. That touches me more nearly. A loss in love. We've got a phrase that touches me more nearly. So we're just marking in, and I'm marking it with a little V on this page, though usually if I'm typing, I'll mark it with an asterisk. Okay, let's cut to the end of it. Let's assume we've marked all the caesures. Loving offenders, thus I will excuse you. And now we'll be ready to have a go at reading the thing, because we split it into 4 sections. The rhyming couplet and the last words have given us a sense of what it's going to be about, something to do with love, relationships, you and me. And we know where to breathe, and the breathing gives us the thought pattern of the speaker, of the poet. So we're learning how Shakespeare was thinking. That thou hast her is not all my grief, and yet it may be said I loved her dearly. That she hath thee is of my wailing chief, a loss in love that touches me more nearly. That you've got her is not my big problem, but that she's got you, that's the problem. Loving offenders, thus I will excuse ye. Thou dost love her, because thou knowest I love her, and for my sake even so doth she abuse me, suffering my friend for my sake to approve her. So he says loving offenders, so he's accusing like his girl and his best friend of having this affair or something. And he says, but I will excuse ye. Because you love her, because you know I love her. So you're only into her because I'm into her. And for my sake, even so doth she abuse me, suffering my friend for my sake to approve her. And she's only looking at him to kind of get me jealous or to make me think more of her. If I lose thee, my loss is my love's gain. And losing her, my friend hath found that loss. Both find each other, and I lose both twain, and both for my sake lay me on a cross. If I lose thee, my loss is love's gain. So if this all goes wrong, if I lose my partner to my friend, well, it's okay because it's love's gain. And losing her, my friend hath found that loss. So, in a way, love still wins. So the guy's trying to make the best of what could be a bit of a bad situation. Both find each other, and I lose both twain, and both for my sake lay me on this cross. Lay me on this cross, a Christ image. Christ sacrificed himself for others. So if I lose you, it gives me a chance to almost play Christ. I'm sacrificing myself for love. So he's trying to find the best of it. And then in the rhyming couplet, we have a final conclusion, more than perhaps a summary. But here's the joy. My friend and I are one. Sweet flattery, then she loves but me alone. It's a bit strange. So is he saying that this friend of his is actually him, like he set up a sort of pina colada moment, if you know what that means? Or is he saying that humanity, I and my friend are one because humanity is one? But what we talked about yesterday was the idea that it's as if he's set up this false rival to stimulate his girlfriend's interest in, love, etc. And then at the end, he exposes the fact that this rival was actually him. And so he's got her to fall in love again with someone new, but that new person's actually him. That sounds a bit complicated, but it's a strange one because it's almost like describing a little trick or a little game in love.